Shalom, and welcome to the weekend edition of the Daily Dose of Hebrew. Looking today at Jeremiah chapter 4, verse 18. We've seen in the previous verses how the Lord is sending the Babylonian armies to chastise his people. In the previous verses, they were actually surrounding the city of Jerusalem and ready to begin the siege. And here we're going to get a little word of explanation of why this has been happening. So let's go ahead and read the text in Hebrew as we get started. Darkek uma'alalaich aso ele lach zot ra'atek ki mar ki nagar ad libech. So we start with darkek, and we have our word derek with a pronoun suffix on it. So we've got the suffix going to be a 2fs suffix, she, you, actually, feminine, referring to the city of Jerusalem. And derek, which is usually written with a final calf like that. And derek, actually it's a segul like that, which means way, your path, and ma'alalaik. Once again, we have a 2fs suffix on it, this time on a plural noun. It would normally be ma'alalim, ma'alalim. Ma'alal is a noun, it's a masculine noun, which is always found in the plural from the verb alal, which means to make or to do. So ma'alal, and usually in the plural, ma'alalim means your works or your actions. So with the suffix on it, your works or your actions. So it's your way and your actions. Now here's our verb, but it's a little bit unusual because we have this O at the ending of it, and we don't usually see that. Well, what we have here is an infinitive absolute. Now usually we would see this with actually a hey right after the final O there, but we don't have the hey this time, and so it's not fully written out. There are some cases, this is not a unique case, but there are a number of cases where the infinitive absolute is just written without the final hey on it, especially in a three hey verb like this. So this is not totally unusual, although it's a little bit exceptional. And the infinitive absolute, this is a cow, and this seems to be just continuing the sense of the perfect verbs that you had earlier, description of what we had. So we have to get the temporal aspect of this more from the context rather than from the form of the verb itself. In the Septuagint, they actually translated this as a Greek aorist, so they seem to have read this as probably a shurek here at the end, which would have been a perfect third common plural instead of infinitive absolute. But the Masoretic text does have the O, the Cholam Vav, instead of the shurek here. So that's sort of interesting. But again, we translate this as has done, or your way and your actions have done these things. This is your demonstrative pronoun, your near demonstrative in the plural, these things to you, again with the 2fs suffix. So this is the reason why these things have happened. All this destruction coming, the siege that's coming against the city, is because of what you have done, your ways, your way, and your actions. This is a demonstrative pronoun again, used in a more abstract sense, almost the equivalent of hine. This, behold, this is your, well, literally it's your evil, again with a suffix on it, from the noun ra'ah here, which usually means evil, but it can be evil in the moral sense or evil in the sense of a calamity, and that seems to be more in the context there. This is the calamity which is going to be, fall upon you. And this key here may actually be more of an emphatic sort of an idea. Indeed, bitter, mar, which means bitter. Indeed, it is bitter. Indeed, or for, this may be an explanation of why it is so bitter, because naga, it touches, it attains. This is a perfect, it's a 3ms cal from the verb naga, which means to reach to something. And it reaches up to, here's your preposition, to your heart. Again, with a suffix on the end referring to Jerusalem. It reaches to your very heart. Now, what we have here, this is obviously a perfect, so it could be in the past, but again, Jeremiah is describing something which is about to occur. He's using these perfect verbs and maybe the infinitive absolute here in a perfect sense as well, even though the judgment itself is still slightly future. And you're gonna see that translations differ sometimes in the way they translate this. So, well, let's go ahead and hide our work here and look at three translations real briefly. First of all, in the ESV, which is very straightforward. Your ways, now this is, they have a plural here. We actually have a singular up here. Your way and your deeds have brought this upon you, have done. You can see they put this as have brought. So they put this as a perfect, whereas actually infinitive absolute. But in the context, it's explaining why this has happened. So the infinitive absolute can continue that perfect idea without any problem. This or these things to you or upon you. This is your doom. And I thought that's an interesting way of translating evil here, but that probably gets the idea. This is the calamity. This is what's going to happen to you. And I would say, indeed, it is bitter, from mar here, for it has reached, they didn't put anything in to translate this key here, but it has reached your very heart. Pretty good there. Okay, and then with the NIV, your own conduct and actions, for your way and your actions, have brought this on you. It's pretty straightforward. This is your punishment, your calamity, the consequences of what you've done. How bitter it is. So there you get that exclamatory idea with the how coming in, probably to pick up this key idea here. And once again over here, how it pierces to the heart. Again, have brought. Now you see a little bit of a difference when we get to the last one, the Net Bible, the Internet Bible. The way you have lived for your path, your way here, and the things you have done for your actions will bring this on you. Now that isn't really a contradiction with the other ones. Have brought this because Jeremiah is saying it's done, but it hasn't fully worked its way out yet. He still sees it in prophecy. The Net Bible puts it into a near future. Will bring this on you. This is the punishment you deserve. So they're developing this idea of your evil, your calamity, the things that will happen to you. This is the punishment you deserve, and it will be painful indeed, for bitter. Get that idea for painful here. And the pain will be so bad it will pierce your heart. So they develop this and tease that out a little bit more. It will reach all the way to your heart. So a little more of a paraphrastic idea here. And even though they're using future ideas, it really is the same contextually as what Jeremiah is saying, and the other translations are bringing out with the perfects that they have here. Jeremiah is announcing it. It's a done deal. God has decreed it. It hasn't actually happened to the people yet, but it's on the way, and it is going to happen. We're going to see how this judgment which is coming is going to affect the prophet Jeremiah himself, because he loves his people dearly and he doesn't want this to happen. He would so rather, just like God would so rather, that his people abandon their sinful ways and turn back to him. So check back with us soon as we continue working through Jeremiah chapter 4 in our weekend edition of the Daily Dose of Hebrew. Shalom.